Hello, and welcome to the 2026 Funding Opportunity webinar. My name is Natalie Wilson, and I'm a senior partner at NewSchools. I'm excited to share that we've launched our $10 million funding opportunity across all of our investment areas: innovative schools, learning solutions, teaching reimagined, and learning differences. We're seeking bold, visionary leaders, whether you're an educator, a school founder, or an entrepreneur, with fresh ideas to transform public education. This is your chance to bring your vision to life with a one-year unrestricted grant of $150,000 to $250,000. On this webinar, you'll hear from several of my colleagues, including our CEO, Francis, myself, Ana Leon Santos, Michelle Sanchez, and some of my colleagues across different investment areas. I wanted to just share their names and faces with you so that when you get to that point in the webinar, you'll recognize them, they'll seem familiar, and you'll see which investment area they each correspond with. Our webinar is a bit long, and because of that, we've broken it up into a couple of different parts for you. We want to make sure that we're making the most of your time and that you can navigate to the part that makes the most sense for you to watch. So do not feel like you have to sit through the entire webinar, but really want to make sure you understand each of the different parts and what we're going to share in each. In part one of the webinar, we'll share more about the funding opportunity. We'll start by sharing about our vision, our strategy, and each of our investment areas. We'll go over eligibility at a glance, share more about what we offer when you become a member of the NewSchools family and portfolio, and then talk about the applicant supports that we provide to support you in submitting an application. We'll go over the details on how to apply and share the timeline and next steps as we close. We encourage you to watch part two, and that is where you will learn more about the different application pathways. So while there's one shared timeline and process and one portal to apply, the application questions differ depending on your idea. And so we recommend that you really watch the part two of this webinar that's specific to the application that applies more to you. And so if you are launching or designing or thinking about opening a school, we have a schools application, and that team will be able to share more about what we're looking for there, as well as what that application entails. And then what we're calling our general application is relevant to all the other investment areas. So that's our learning solutions, teaching reimagined, and learning differences investment areas. We will talk a bit more about each of those investment areas in that part two webinar, and then also walk through the general application.
Hi, I'm Frances Misano, CEO of NewSchools Venture Fund, and I'm excited to share with you our new investment strategy. It's a strategy that's more than just a plan. It's an investment in our future. In America, it's still too predictable who gets a fair shot in life. Our current system limits opportunity for everyone, and we just can't afford that. We're here to change that. As a country, we have big issues to tackle. Whether it's creating an inclusive economy, defending our democracy, addressing the climate crisis, or adapting to emergent technologies, all roads lead back to education. Our new strategy builds on what works in education and introduces new solutions to make sure that all young people have what they need to succeed in school and in life. Over the next 3 years, we will raise $100 million, and we will invest it in 3 key areas: innovative schools, learning solutions, and teaching reimagined, and we will prove our impact. Our focus is on creating a just future for all students, especially those who are furthest from opportunity, including students of color, students experiencing poverty, and students with learning differences. We are calling for the best ideas from everyone, and while we do it, we're expanding access to capital to leaders of color who share the insights and understandings of the students we serve. We have racial equity at the core of our strategy, and it is key to everything we do. Schools are the foundation of K-12 public education, and we believe that they can be transformational for students, their families, and their entire community. We will continue to invest in charter and district schools that center students and help them to become the leaders and the problem solvers our society needs. For learning solutions, we will invest in new ideas focused on accelerating math and literacy outcomes. We envision a future where all young people get access to personalized support and where new tools like generative artificial intelligence can be used to level the playing field. And then there's Teaching Reimagined. It's time to rethink the role of educators and how they work. We're investing in innovative approaches to make teaching a career that's rewarding, sustainable, and open to everyone. We're also supporting ideas that better engage caregivers and community members to support student success. Community engagement is essential to informing who, what, and how we fund. That's why we're engaging a group of students, parents, community members, and researchers to make sure that all of our investments are inclusive and impactful. All first-time investments will be made with community member input. This is more than an investment strategy. It's a blueprint for building a better education system. We're committed to sharing insights and best practices to inspire new thinking and action across the field. It's all about systemic change. If you have a bold idea, we want to hear from you. Apply to our funding opportunity. This is a chance for you to bring your vision to life and to be part of a national community of innovators who are leading at the edge. We have seen time and time again that we can solve hard problems when we follow the lead of students, parents, and innovators. At NewSchools, we are committed to leading with optimism, ambition, and imagination so that we can create an education system that delivers on its promise to all students. Join us.
I'm going to provide an overview of what we're looking for in each of our investment areas. In our Innovative Schools investment area, we are looking for new, innovative public schools that support students to develop a strong academic foundation and the skills needed for success in life. In our Learning Solutions investment area, we are looking for K-8 reading and math solutions that build foundational skills and personalized learning to support student success. Within our Teaching Reimagined investment area, we're looking for solutions that redesign educator roles, bridge school and community, and leverage artificial intelligence to make teaching more sustainable, more effective, and joyful. In our Learning Differences investment area, we're specifically looking for solutions that enhance teaching and learning for students with diagnosed and undiagnosed learning disabilities. Here, I'm going to share more about each of the different focus areas within those investment areas I named previously. So within our Innovative Schools investment area, we mentioned that we're looking for innovative public schools. Specifically, we're looking for schools that are opening in the fall of 2026, 2027, or 2028 that are enrolling students within the K through 12 grade span on a full-time basis. Those can be charter schools, district schools, or new BIE schools. Within our Learning Solutions investment area, as I shared, we're looking for those foundational literacy and numeracy solutions that might be tools, models, or content focused on K-8 reading and K-8 math. They may also be focused on both K-8 reading and math. So when you're in the eligibility form, you'll have the option to select the focus area that most aligns with your work. Within Teaching Reimagined, we're looking for providers that help schools adapt new collaborative staffing models to improve educator effectiveness and well-being, or organizations that support schools to integrate caregivers, community experts, or industry professionals onto instructional teams. We're also looking for those solutions that are co-designed with educators to really strengthen their instructional practice and prepare them to use artificial intelligence safely and effectively. And in our Learning Differences investment area, within and beyond the investment areas that we've already named, we're looking to make a subset of investments specifically focused on educator professional development and instructional tools that are designed to increase equitable outcomes for students with a diagnosed or undiagnosed disability, special education teacher recruitment and retention initiatives, and post-secondary readiness solutions designed to meet the needs of students with a diagnosed or undiagnosed disability. I want to share just a little bit about eligibility, and know that there's an eligibility form on our website that you can preview the eligibility form questions. If you click on the link embedded in the webinar slide. So we invest in early stage organizations, and that's also new initiatives within existing organizations. So it's really about, is the idea itself early? And then we're also looking for new innovative public schools. To be eligible for funding, you must be doing work that advances NewSchools' mission and aligns with one of our investment areas and one of the specific focus areas that I recently named. Lastly, your work must impact U.S. K-12 public education. If all of that sounds like your work and you're working on one of the focus areas that we named, we encourage you to click Learn More and apply. Lastly, I wanted to share a bit about our investment criteria. Each of your ideas will be reviewed by our team to determine if it's eligible for our funding opportunity, and then we'll spend some time checking your idea against our investment criteria. First, we're looking for ideas that really align with our mission and one of those 4 investment areas that we named. Specifically, they'll need to align with one of the focus areas within each investment area. So that's in our innovative schools, learning solutions, teaching reimagined, and learning differences investment areas. We often get asked, what if I have an idea that overlaps across multiple? Or what if I have 2 ideas I want to submit? I want to encourage you to really focus in on the idea that your team is most excited about moving forward and has the capacity and skills to move forward at this time. So to submit that one idea that really aligns with our funding opportunity. And within that idea, we'll make sure that it's reviewed by the team that makes the most sense. So you select the focus area that aligns best with your work, and we'll take all the guesswork out of where it fits, and we'll review it across all investment areas where it may be a fit. Under idea, we're really looking for those bold ideas that combine new approaches with proven practices to really improve student learning and advance equitable outcomes for all. Within community engagement, this is where we expect innovators to engage students, families, community members early and often to really inform the solution, both the design and the implementation. On team, we're seeking mission-driven, diverse innovators who demonstrate a passion, personal integrity, and the ability to execute and deliver impact. In inclusion, we look to support teams that are dedicated to disrupting the predictability of who succeeds in this nation by building organizations and solutions that are designed for students furthest from opportunity. And lastly, financial sustainability. We're looking for organizations with plans for achieving financial sustainability through a mix of revenue sources. All of these investment criteria will really come to light in the application. And within the application, we'll ask some questions to learn more about how your idea maps to each of these criteria.
Hi there. My name is Michelle Sanchez, and I'm the coordinator for strategic opportunities here at NewSchools. I'm excited to share about the support and resources that NewSchools provides to organizations that are selected for funding. In addition to unrestricted funding, our ventures receive non-financial supports that are designed to strengthen their organizations and grow their impact. These supports, which we call management assistance, include coaching and customized one-on-one support from our team and other national experts, as well as participation in communities of practice, where you will build relationships and learn with and from other leaders. You can learn more about our comprehensive support through the video linked in this slide and on our website. I won't read this slide to you, but we take pride in the fact that our venture leaders value the support and resources that we provide. I encourage you to watch the video linked in the previous slide to learn more and hear directly from them. We want to be able to support you to submit a strong application. And in order to best support leaders throughout the application process, we offer the following resources. The application guide has a preview of all application questions, as well as a summary of key dates and helpful information. We encourage you to review this guide as you complete the application. You can even download it or make a copy and then draft your own responses in the document. Don't forget to upload your responses, though, in the application portal before you hit submit. The webinar, right now, we're walking through what we invest in, what we offer, and the application itself. Office hours. We invite you to join us for open, informal time to ask questions in small groups about the application process, venture experience, or discuss if this funding opportunity is a good fit for your idea. You can drop in at any point during the designated time. We have opportunities to connect directly via our inquiry form, which is a streamlined process for you to reach out for help whenever you need it. The folks that you see on this webinar are the same people who are answering the inquiry form submissions. We do anticipate a higher volume of inquiries in the last 72 hours. We will do our best to respond to all of the inquiries, but if you don't receive a response, please move forward with submitting your application. Lastly, our FAQs will be a living, breathing document as we update it according to top inquiries that we hear from the field. We want to ensure our resources are transparent, accessible, and meaningful for you, and support you in submitting your best application. Our goal is to offer multiple pathways of support that best meet your needs during our application window. I'll share a little bit more about office hours. During the application window, there will be 3 90-minute office hours. These will be open, informal opportunities for applicants to drop in and ask questions in small groups. To make the most of the time on the call, we do encourage you to review the application guide and the remainder of this webinar before attending. If you have any questions that you would like to discuss live, register for the office hours that best fits with your schedule. We're committed to supporting first-time applicants through this process. In addition to the general office hours listed here, we're also offering a first-time applicant office hours. Next, let's go over the steps to submitting an application. There's a 3-step process to apply, and it all takes place in our application portal. First, you'll create an account in our funding portal as soon as possible to access the eligibility form, submit the application, and receive email updates. Next, you'll complete the eligibility form. We've designed this form to help applicants determine if they're eligible for this funding opportunity. It's the first part of the application. It will help you to determine if your idea aligns with our strategy, and if so, which application is the best fit for your idea. We estimate that it will take 5 minutes to complete the form, and we recommend you do so early in the application window. We recommend that you also review the application guide to understand which responses may lead to ineligibility. If you completed your form incorrectly, you can submit a new one. And if you have any additional questions, reach out to us via our inquiry form. Lastly, you'll decide whether to apply based on the eligibility results and submit your application in the funding portal by Thursday, January 8th, 2026 at 11:59 p.m. Pacific. We strongly encourage you to submit the application by the early submission deadline of December 1st, 2025. Applications submitted by this deadline will receive a status update by the end of January. If you have any questions throughout the process, we invite you to take advantage of our resources and supports, such as the application guide, this webinar, office hours, the inquiry form, and the FAQs. There is one shared timeline, process, and portal, but the application questions are going to look different depending on what your idea is focused on. Completing the eligibility form will help you understand if you're eligible to apply and which application is the best fit for your idea. It's going to ask you if your idea is focused on opening a new charter, tribal, or district school. If you say yes to that, you're going to be routed to our schools application, which is going to apply to our Innovative Schools investment area. If you say no to that, you'll be routed to our general application, which applies to our Learning Solutions, Teaching Reimagined, and Learning Differences investment areas. Your answer here will route how the rest of your application will continue. We're incredibly excited to learn more about your vision for education innovation, and we look forward to receiving your application by 11:59 p.m. Pacific on January 8th. Now, let's take a look at the timeline and next steps. Our application will close on January 8th, 2026 at 11:59 p.m. Pacific. Applications are reviewed on a rolling basis. Applicants who submit by December 1st will receive an update on their application by the end of January, and so we recommend that you apply by this early submission deadline. All applicants can expect an initial update on the status of your application by March 2026 and a funding decision by June 2026. Funding will be dispersed in the summer of 2026. After you submit your application, you may be wondering what we're doing behind the scenes. So we wanted to share more about what the standard review timeline looks like to be transparent about next steps for applicants who apply by January 8th. As applications are submitted, investment teams collaborate to ensure that each application is reviewed by all relevant teams. This helps ensure all ideas are considered where they fit best. Teams will then thoroughly review applications against our investment criteria. At this stage, teams might gather additional information from applicants. After the review stage, some applicants will be invited to interview. We see this as an opportunity to learn more about leaders, their teams, and their ideas. You will be notified about your application status by March. Finally, we will make funding decisions based on what we learn throughout the review and interview process. While timing varies by investment area, all applicants can expect to hear from us by the end of June. Funding will be dispersed in the summer. In this first part of the webinar, we discussed our vision and strategy, our investment areas, eligibility, what we offer, applicant supports, how to apply, and the timeline. In the next section of the webinar, we will double-click on our investment areas and what we fund in each of them, as well as what we ask about in the application itself.
Hi, my name is Ana Leon Santos, and I'm an associate partner at NewSchools, and I manage our funding opportunity. I'm excited to spend some time with you to discuss what we fund and walk through the application with a focus on the general application. This is the application that you will complete if you are aligned with our Learning Solutions, Teaching Reimagined, and Learning Differences investment areas. If your idea is focused on opening a school, I encourage you to click on part 2 of the webinar that is focused on schools, the schools application. So in part 1 of the webinar, you got an overview at a glance of our funding opportunity, what we offer as a funder, as well as applicant supports that are available to you to support you in completing your application. If you haven't had the chance to review that part of the webinar, I highly encourage you to go back to our website and review part 1. In part 2, we're going to be focusing on what we fund, so really double-clicking on the eligibility to apply for funding for NewSchools, what we are looking for in each of the investment areas, and then what we ask about in the application. And again, this will be focused on learning ideas that are aligned with Learning Solutions, Teaching Reimagined, and Learning Differences. If your idea is focused on opening a school, please check out part 2 of the webinar that is focused on the schools application. In the next few minutes, you will hear from my colleagues, Cameron, Pete, and Aaron, who will dive into what they're looking for in the Learning Solutions, Teaching Reimagined, and Learning Differences investment areas. So after you hear from my colleagues, I will jump back in to walk you through general eligibility for a NewSchools grant as well as the application. And talk to you soon.
Hi, my name is Cameron White, and I'm a senior partner at NewSchools. I'm here to share more about our learning solution strategy and what we're looking for in this funding opportunity. In this investment area, we will invest in tools, content, and models that accelerate K-8 reading and math growth by unlocking the power of research and instructional expertise. Empowering students to read and write is fundamental to their ability to learn across subject areas and communicate with others. Building students' math abilities, from early math skills through algebraic thinking, enables them to make sense of the world around them, analyze complex topics, and solve problems. Together, literacy and numeracy reinforce each other and create a foundation for students to build success in and beyond school, preparing young people to achieve their goals, participate in society, and live happy, healthy lives. Foundational literacy and numeracy are especially important now, as students need both rigorous grade level instruction and differentiated content tailored to their specific strengths and needs. There is a critical need for innovation to increase student access to inspiring and effective reading and math experiences, and that's where your ideas come in. Within these two core focus areas, K-8 reading and K-8 math, we're looking for solutions that address critical opportunities, including engaging and empowering students to build critical skills, such as reading comprehension and algebraic thinking that set a foundation for learning and success, supporting teachers and families to deliver grade level and differentiated instruction that meet a range of student needs, and leveraging generative AI to increase access to research-based instruction and personalized learning. Our learning solutions focus area is focused on ideas that support K-8 reading and math growth. Solutions that focus exclusively on early childhood, high school, or post-secondary pathways are not in scope. Within K-8 reading and math, we are interested in a range of approaches to technology, including high-tech, low-tech, and no-tech solutions. We are open to solutions that target students directly, as well as solutions that empower educators or families within students' learning. We are especially interested in solutions that are aligned with research and those that have a thoughtful approach to effectively serving students with learning differences and multilingual learners. If what I've described sounds like your work, we'd love to hear from you. Please share your idea with us.
Hi, my name is Pete Fishman, and I'm excited to tell you more about the Teaching Reimagined investments area and what we're looking to fund in 2026. Across the country, we see that the nature of work has changed, but the teaching profession has not changed with it. Today's high school and college students are looking for careers that offer financial stability, flexibility, collaboration, and a sense of purpose. Yet while teaching is one of the most meaningful careers, it lacks the flexibility and incentives that appeal to this generation. The result is that many young people are discouraged from entering the field, and those who do teach often leave because of the profession's rigid structure and challenging conditions. And students furthest from opportunity are the ones that feel the greatest negative effects from teaching's antiquated structures. So that's why our team's excited to invest in innovative approaches to help teachers thrive by making the teaching profession itself more sustainable, more effective, and more joyful. We're looking for ideas that fall into one of the following categories. First, we're looking for providers that help schools adopt new collaborative staffing models to improve educator effectiveness and well-being. Second, we're investing in organizations that support schools to integrate caregivers, community experts, and industry professionals onto instructional teams. And finally, we'll be investing in solutions co-designed with educators to strengthen their instructional practice and prepare them to use AI safely and effectively. Let me share a bit more about what's in scope and what's out of scope. So first, when we say new collaborative staffing models, this could include innovative co-teaching, team teaching, distributed leadership, or fractional staffing models. We're focused on ideas that shift how time and talent are organized in schools to support student learning. Second, for ideas bridging school and community, we're looking to invest in providers that help schools recruit, train, and integrate new sources of talent onto community-connected instructional teams. The emphasis here is on integration of diverse sources of expertise into a school's staffing model. And finally, for ideas that leverage AI, our team is looking for AI tools related to professional learning, designed to strengthen instructional practice through coaching, simulations, or as a teacher's assistant. To be in scope, these ideas need to truly focus on teachers' instructional practice. Our team is also interested in ideas that build educators' AI literacy and readiness, grounded in principles of evidence-based professional learning. So not one and done training, but professional learning that's job embedded, ongoing, and practice-based. We consider the following as outside the scope of our investment area. So first, ideas that are exclusively student-facing. This could include a curriculum or a student-facing tool or platform. Also out of scope are ideas that are focused on a single school, network, or district with no aspiration to scale beyond that school or district. Additionally, consider out of scope ideas that are focused on a single academic subject. Those focused exclusively on out of school time or on pre-service teachers exclusively. Finally, if technology is focused simply on saving teacher time, which we believe is incredibly important, but is outside the scope if it's just about teacher time saving and not also about instructional practice, that would also be out of scope. So if you're working on an idea that falls within one of the in-scope categories, we'd love to hear from you. And let's work together to build a future where both teachers and students thrive.
Hi, my name is Erin Stark, and I'm a partner in NewSchools. I'm here to share more about our learning differences strategy and what we're looking for in this funding opportunity. Our learning differences portfolio is focused on the 1 in 5 students who learn and think differently, especially those experiencing the impacts of poverty and racism. And just to level set, when we say students with learning differences, we're talking about students who have a formally diagnosed disability, such as dyslexia, ADHD, or maybe autism, and students who have differences that have just yet to be formally identified. Research tells us that students with learning differences have the potential to achieve outcomes at the same rate as their general education peers. And we believe in equipping our school systems with the innovations needed to help these students thrive and excel in and out of the classroom. As a result of what we learn and the opportunities we see for innovation, our strategy is focused on 2 priorities. 1, integrating a focus on students with learning differences into NewSchools' 3 primary investment areas: innovative schools, learning solutions, and teaching reimagined. And 2, continuing to make a small set of direct investments in high need focus areas. So if your idea aligns with learning solutions, K-8 literacy, K-8 math, or teaching reimagined, or you're thinking about opening an innovative school for students with learning differences, you'll have an opportunity to tell us more about that in the application. Outside of our primary investment areas, we're seeking to invest in ideas in 3 high need areas. First, professional development and instructional tools. We're looking for professional learning for school leaders, general educators, and special educators, and tools designed to support those educators with the skills and resources needed to build communities of belonging and improve outcomes for students with learning differences across their school community. Secondly, we're seeking to focus on ideas that support special education teacher recruitment and retention. We want to increase the number of highly qualified special education teachers in schools and improve retention rates by providing the critical support they need throughout their careers. And third, post-secondary readiness solutions. These are experiential learning opportunities and transition and support services designed uniquely for students with learning differences as they make that critical transition from high school to college or career. So let's talk a little bit more about what is eligible and what might fall outside of our eligibility. So I'll just reinforce, firstly, we're looking for the focus, the primary focus, to be on building the skills of educators. That includes school leaders, general educators, and special educators to understand the needs of students with diagnosed or undiagnosed disabilities. Eligible ideas are also grounded in evidence-based practices that are best for students with disabilities. That might be explicit instruction or universal design for learning. And third, eligible ideas Under post-secondary solutions are either happening during the school day, or engage community partnerships, or might lead to certificates for students. Ideas that fall outside of eligibility might have a secondary focus on supporting students with learning differences. They might be focused on pre-service teachers only, or solutions focused on students in higher education. So if you have a bold idea to reimagine the future of education for students with learning differences, we would love to hear more from you.
Great. So now that you've heard from my colleagues on what they're looking for under learning solutions, teaching reimagined, and learning differences, I want to do a deeper dive on the general application, specifically what we're looking for, what we ask about, and next steps on how to apply. So let's start with some general eligibility. In order to be eligible for funding, there are a few things that we are looking for. And the great thing is that we have an eligibility form, which is the first series of questions that you will see when you log into the application portal. You can always preview these questions in the application guide linked on our website. So these questions are really designed to see if your work advances our mission as well as our investment focus, the stage of your idea, and really if it's aligned with our focus on supporting innovators in the early stages of developing new ideas. We also want to know that there is a dedicated leader to advancing the work. We know there is a lot of time and energy that is invested in launching a new idea and scaling the impact of that work. And so we want to know who will be there to lead that work. We will also ask if the initiative is distinct from existing work. So now we fund both new organizations and new initiatives within existing organizations. And really within that, we're looking for ideas that are distinct from the work that your organization has historically been leading. And lastly, we want to make sure that your idea reaches students beyond your school or network. So we are looking to fund ideas that are reimagining what's possible in K-12 public education, and that should expand beyond a single school or network. We'll double click on each of these in the next few minutes and then dive into the application. Okay, so let's start with mission alignment. We are really looking to fund ideas that are aligned with our New Schools mission to reimagine what's possible in K-12 public education. So the ideas should be focused on K-12 public education. Now we fund a varying forms of configurations, from nonprofits to fiscally sponsored nonprofits to for-profits, government entities, and individuals. If you are not sure whether you will be a nonprofit or for-profit, it is totally okay to submit your idea as an individual, and part of this will be something that you can figure out between now and as your idea progresses through the application process. So the ideas that are not eligible for funding are ideas that are focused solely on international education, ideas that will not impact public school students, and 501c4s or policy-focused efforts. Second, we're looking for ideas that are aligned with the focus of our investments in learning solutions, teaching reimagined, and learning differences. And if you missed that part of the webinar, you should go back a little bit and you'll hear from my colleagues on what we're looking for in each of these investment areas. If your idea is focused on designing or opening a new school, I encourage you to watch the webinar that is focused on the schools application. And so for the other things that would make you ineligible for this application specifically would be a school or program that you're only implementing at your school or network. We're really looking for ideas that expand beyond one and have a broader impact on education. And we also are not funding ideas that are not aligned with our focus area. So as you complete the eligibility form, you will have an opportunity to select one of the priorities under each of the investment areas, and you will have the option to say other. Now, if your idea, if it doesn't align and you select other, then you would not be eligible. One thing that I will say here is that we understand that ideas can be broad in their scope. And so and we do our best to make sure that the descriptions of our investment areas are as comprehensive as possible. But if you feel like maybe the brief description that is on that question might be a little bit reductive in describing the work that you're doing, that is okay, as long as you have seen our website, seen the webinar, and understand that there is an alignment with what we fund. Next, we have idea stage. So we invest in early stage organizations and new initiatives within existing organizations. So if your idea has been either you're ready to pilot in the next year, or you have implemented your idea for less than 2 years, you're likely eligible to apply. So we're really looking to fund ideas that are between that stage of ready to pilot in the next year and have implemented their program for less than 2 years. We understand that the growth of your idea might be nonlinear, but generally that is the stage at which we are investing in. And so so if your idea is like at a more initial preliminary stage and you don't feel like you would be ready to pilot in the next year, you would not be eligible for this funding opportunity. And we encourage you to come back when you feel like you're at that stage to pilot your idea. And if you have implemented your product or program for more than 2 years and are really focused on growth and scale, you also would not be eligible for this funding opportunity because you would be beyond the stage of early stage investments that we make. Great. Then dedicated leadership, so important. As you heard on part 1 of the webinar, one of the pieces that distinguishes us as a funder is the deep partnership that we have through our management assistance offerings. And we also know that there is a lot of energy and time dedicated into launching new work. And so for organizations, we expect that there would be a dedicated leader to advancing the work full time within 3 months of receiving grant funding. And for initiative within existing organizations, we're looking for these organizations to have an identified leader dedicating at least 50% of their time to advancing the work. And this difference is really grounded on the differences in experiences between the organizational capacity and needs of an established organization relative to a new emerging organization. So for ideas that are not eligible, this would be new organizations where there won't be a leader dedicated to advancing the work. And within initiatives in an existing organization, it's really when there isn't a person that's really charged with leading that initiative. So if you have, say, 3 people coming together trying to make about 100% of the time, that is different than having someone that's at least dedicating 50% of their time to advancing the work. And similarly, initiatives that have not identified a leader would not be eligible to apply. So I've said a few ways, initiatives within existing organizations, but really we fund both new organizations and initiatives within existing organizations. And really what we're looking for here is ideas that are aligned with the mission of the broader organization and represent a new body of work for the organization. Those ideas would be eligible to apply. Now, if your initiative represents an improvement, a new feature, or expansion of existing work led by the organization, then wouldn't be eligible for this funding opportunity. And similar to ideas across the board, if your idea has been implemented for more than 2 years, you would not be eligible to apply for this funding opportunity. So that is our eligibility at a glance. So next we will dive into what we ask about and do a deep dive into the application. At a glance, the key sections of the application are idea, impact, themes, revenue, leadership and team, and additional information. So I'll go into each of them. And as I walk through these, I highly encourage you to leverage the application guide, which one, you can make a copy of it and make sure that you have your responses saved beyond working on the application directly in the funding portal. And two, a lot of the helpful tips that we will discuss in the next few minutes are already captured in the help text that you will see in the application guide. Great. So at a glance, the idea section will really provide you an opportunity to share more details about your idea, mission, vision. This is really the most important section of the application. This is really where you will be telling us what is the idea that you want to implement to reimagine what's possible in education. The impact section is where you will describe the anticipated impact of your work and at sometimes the impact that you have had to date if you had had a chance to implement your idea. This will really help us understand who you intend to serve and how your idea has the potential to drive meaningful change for students and educators. The theme section is really, really short and sweet. We really want to understand your alignment with our cross-cutting priorities, specifically whether your idea advances equitable outcomes for students with diagnosed or undiagnosed disabilities, and whether your idea leverages artificial intelligence. Neither of these cross-cutting priorities are a requirement for funding. It just helps us understand whether your idea is focused on this or if it's an integral part of the design of it. Next, we will have the revenue session. So this is really helping us understand how much money you have raised and or earned since you began operating. And this includes fundraising, raised capital, and earned revenue. And we will double click on how to navigate the questions in a little bit. And the last section of the application is really the leadership and team. And here we were really hoping to learn about you as the leader, including what drives you and inspires you and the skill sets and strengths that bring you into this work, and your team, right? Which may or may not exist. It is totally okay if you're at a solopreneur stage right now. But if you do have a team, we want to learn about them as well. And we also want to learn about like your vision for how you might grow the organization to make sure that you have the right mix of skills and backgrounds that drive impact. The last section is really an additional information section that just helps us get better. Year over year, we want to gather information about like where you're hearing about this funding opportunity so we can find folks like you in the next coming years, whether you have a relationship with NewSchools, so that we can understand whether you have received previous funding or not, as well as just some general understanding of whether you've leveraged supports. So one of the questions actually will be if you have watched this webinar, so we can know where to put our time and energy as we support applicants and find prospective applicants. So let's go into each of these sections in a little bit of more detail. As I said, the idea section is really the key part of the application. This really invites us to understand your idea, mission, vision, and the long-term change your organization seeks to create, the problem that you're addressing, and how your idea offers a solution for this problem. The main primary question will be, tell us about your idea and how does your solution address a key issue in K-12 education. This is really your opportunity to walk us through, like, truly what it is that you will implement in order to see the change that you hope to see. We also are going to invite you to describe your approach to engaging community members, particularly students, educators, and caregivers in the development of your idea. And you also have the option, and asterisk on bold on optional, right? This is an optional question. You will have the opportunity to share a link to a product demo of your idea. So really thinking about what is, if you are developing a tech solution, this might be an opportunity for us to see your idea in action. And if you are a non-technical solution, this might be just like a roadmap or something that helps us understand what it is that the students, parents, educators that are engaging with your idea are going to interact with and what their experience might be. So really some tips for navigating this section are really making that strong connection between the idea, the what, the problem you seek to address, really your why, the motivator for developing this idea, and the implementation plan or the how, right? We want to understand, this is the idea. How would a student, for example, interact with your idea on a classroom setting? And we also want you to clearly share the how behind it as much in depth as you can. Getting to that, really, and this is actually connected to our last tip, which is really, I encourage you to share your idea with someone who may not have heard about it before. And this is actually a great way to understand what might be very, very clear to you because you are the architect of the idea, and what questions might someone who is new to the work have about it. And so that perspective will help strengthen how you communicate the how of how the idea will be implemented. That's in your impact section. This section really describes the expected impact of your work. It helps us understand who you intend to serve and how your idea has the potential to drive meaningful change for students and educators. The key questions here will be, how will you know if you're successful? How do you plan to expand your impact over time? And who do you primarily aim to serve, right? We have a broad set of ideas some of them are focused on educators, some of them are focused on students, etc. And so we want to understand who is the primary user or the person that you hope to impact directly or serve directly, sorry. And so some helpful tips here is really leaning into the possibilities that you hope to create through your idea. I think that this is a space, particularly as an early stage funder, where we see a little bit of paralysis sometimes, right? Oh, wait, but this is the impact section of an idea that I haven't piloted yet, or I have this pilot, but it was really 5 educators, et cetera, right? This is where we start getting all of this oh, but, or if statements that in many ways tend to minimize the impact and the potential for your idea. So really lean into the change that you hope to see if you haven't had the chance to pilot your idea. So it is okay, and your story of impact will look differently depending on the stage of your idea, and we encourage you to lean into it. If you have had a chance to pilot and you're able to share a few indicators of your impact to date, that is great. If you have not, that is also okay. In that case, you can speak to what you hope will be true for the students, educators, and caregivers engaging in your program in the next 12 months, sorry, not years, if you receive funding. And you can also share 3 to 5 like qualitative or quantitative indicators that help you to assess your short-term impact on students, educators, or caregivers, right? And this is an opportunity for you to lean into both what you might have at this point and what you will have in the future. And so there is a strong possibility that right now you have qualitative stories of educator satisfaction or student engagement, and that you might hope to see in the future, right? To have more quantitative data on the impact of the solution, for example, to say on the literacy outcomes of the students. So really being able to both hold the story of what you're seeing now that demonstrates early evidence of impact, and 2, what are the things that you're going to be looking for as you roll out your idea to give you that confidence and of impact that it is working and delivering solutions for those that you're reaching. And lastly, you will have the opportunity in this section to describe who you're currently reaching and where you're operating. And so if your idea is national, and we encourage you to at least select 5, up to 5 states where you're currently operating or where the majority of the people that you are reaching are located. So we can have a sense of your geographic reach. And so just a plug, if your idea has a national focus, please select both national and also let us know where the primary people that you're currently reaching are located. Next, the revenue section will help us understand how much money you have raised or earned since you began operating. And so this is really an opportunity for you to share how much revenue you generated in the last fiscal year and in your current fiscal year, as well as your plans for achieving financial sustainability. Now, I highly encourage you to reference the revenue FAQs that are in our application guide. That will share some definitions for all the components of the budget table. And with that, I will also say that as an early stage funder, we understand and expect many applicants to not have yet raised or earned revenue. So responses of 0 are totally okay. We also, this is an opportunity to both give the data and share your thinking on how you're planning to achieve financial sustainability. So you have both quantitative table that you will be completing, as well as a question that invites you to really share your plan for achieving financial sustainability. And we understand that this might be a big question to answer at this moment, and that your plans might evolve as your idea grow. But we really want to hear your latest thinking on how you plan to secure the revenue that you need to grow the impact over time. And lastly, I will say that if your application does move forward in the process, you will have the opportunity to share additional details or materials in the next stage of the process. Next, in the leadership and team section, we really want to understand what drives and inspires you and the skills that bring you to this work, right? And we also want to know, as you're building your team, that you have the right mix of skills and backgrounds to drive the impact that you've described in your application. So up to this point, we know the problem that you're trying to solve, the idea that you're presenting, how you're thinking about financial sustainability. And this is really the time to say who is behind the idea and who will be leading it. So the key questions for this section of the application are: who are the leaders behind the idea? How did their professional background and life experiences inform this idea? who are the other team members, and this might not be applicable to you just yet, and that is totally okay. You can share your vision for the type of roles and individuals that would add to your team. And there's also an opportunity to share the number of full-time, part-time leadership members, as well as employees and board members. One recommendation here is to really explicitly name the connection between your personal and professional experiences and the work that you're leading. This is an opportunity for you to draw that through line between your key achievements in your career to date and how they will translate into successfully implementing and eventually scaling this idea. So this is your time to brag, talk about like why you and your team are really uniquely positioned to lead this idea. And again, solopreneurs are welcome, and many of our applicants and grantees are solopreneurs who are starting their new organization. So please feel free to share about like advisors and future roles that you might build in as you continue to grow your idea. One more thing to say here before I transition to the last section of the application is that you will have the option to upload a link to a resume or your LinkedIn profile. There is no preference for which one to upload. Generally, we try to discourage applicants from creating new materials for the purposes of our application. And so I think whichever of the two you feel is best ready and represents your accomplishments to date is fair game. So just wanted to make a note of that since there's an option to do both. So the last section of the application is the additional information section. This really helps us gather information about the applicant pool so that we can find leaders like you in a future year. So the questions that you will navigate there are, have you applied to NewSchools previously, your relationship to NewSchools if applicable, when you heard about this funding opportunity, as well as affiliations with organizations. This information truly helps us get a pulse check on our work in finding entrepreneurs, expanding our reach, and making sure that we are getting the word out there about the funding opportunity to the right people, so that we can reach people like you. And lastly, we will also ask if for feedback as well as utilizations of resources such as this one. So you'll be able to say, I watched the webinar. We really encourage you to share candidly. Your responses really do not impact your funding decision. There will be a separate anonymous survey that is sent to you, and you can use that as well to share feedback with us. But really, this information just helps us continue to improve how we support applicants and how we find folks like you. So to wrap us up, I want to recap some next steps so that you can submit your application. The first step for submitting an application is to create an account in our funding portal as soon as possible so that you can access the eligibility form, those questions that we went over earlier, and submit your application. Step 2 is to complete the eligibility form to determine if your idea aligns with our strategy and which application is the best fit for your idea. And step 3 will be to decide whether to apply based on your eligibility results and submit your application in the funding portal by January 8th. Applications are reviewed on a rolling basis, and applicants who submit by December 1st will receive an earlier update on the status of their application. So if you get in your application by December 1st, you should receive an update on the status of your application by the end of January. And if you have any questions throughout the process, please make sure to leverage the applicant supports. You can connect with us live at an upcoming office hours. You can review the application guide for some tips on how to navigate the application. And you can also reach out to us by submitting an inquiry form, and a member of our team will be there to respond and support you through your application. We are so excited that you're here, that you have a vision for reimagining K through 12 education, and that you want to share your idea with us. We look forward to reading your application.
Hello, my name is Ariana Valenzuela. I'm a partner on the Innovative Schools team, and I'm here today to talk to you about the Innovative Schools open funding opportunity that we have. I'm going to walk through what we're looking for at a high level in all of our schools investment, and then I'm going to spend time walking through the specific application paths you might be interested in, as well as doing a deep dive into our application to kind of give you some helpful tips for submitting your application that will help you really better understand what we're looking for. So let's first dive into kind of what we're looking for at a really high level across all of our schools funding opportunity areas. We're really looking for school founders or who are committed to bringing new school models to life. We support educators who are designing new, innovative public schools that are opening in the fall of 2026, 2027, or 2028. These 3 different opening years encompass grants that support the planning activities of new schools, as well as grants to support the new innovative schools in its early years of operation. We deeply believe that every child has a fundamental right to an excellent education that gives them choice and opportunity, and young people deserve to finish high school ready to build a better future for their families and become future leaders and problem solvers our world needs. Yet too many children, especially those of color, students experiencing poverty, and students with learning differences, lack access to engaging and rigorous learning opportunities they need and the time to create new schools that support students better. To that end, we're looking to invest in the first or second school of an emerging charter school network, a new school with a significantly different model in an existing charter school network, a new district, tribally controlled schools, or those operated by the Bureau of Indian Education. What you might have seen on our application materials is we kind of have 3 different pathways for schools. And so we have 2026 grants, which are what we call our launch grants. And this is for teams that are really confident they are opening a school this coming fall. We also have planning grants, which are for teams that are looking to open schools in 2027. So they are probably about 12 to 18 months out from opening. And we also have charter school design grants. And these are for teams that are looking to open specifically a charter school in 2028. These grants are also going to be interested in schools that are looking to partner with an HBCU in their work. Now, not all charter schools design grants will go to HBCU partnered school, but there will be kind of a special subset that we are looking for schools that are partnering with an HBCU. It's important to note that for our launch grants, this is not the full application at the moment. You will be invited to submit an interest form to us because we actually know a tremendous amount changes in the next 6 to 8 months before your opening. And so we will reach back out to you in spring, early summer to complete a more comprehensive application if you are still on track to open your school in 2026. Now, I want to make sure to mention that if there's a possibility that you might delay or that you might move to a 2027 timeline. So this is likely the case if you have not yet received authorization, if you're really having a difficult time finding a facility. We really encourage you to apply on the 2027 path, because if you do enter the 2026 information only, and then in the summer you tell us you delayed, it will be unlikely we'll be able to consider you for funding for planning. And so I highly encourage you, if you're tentative on your opening year, come in to apply for the 2027 planning. And only submit a launch interest form if you're certain that you're more on a 2026 timeline. Now, I want to speak a bit about who we're looking for to fund. When it comes to team, we're looking to make sure your team is bringing a combination of instructional, school management, and day-to-day operation experience. We're looking for leaders who are self-aware and have a track record of results inside or outside of school settings. In the application, we're going to give you space to talk through the gaps that currently exist on your team and how you plan to fill those. We know many of you are applying with a small team, or you might be the only person at the table. That is okay. We're really looking to see your vision here. We also deeply care about how you go about new school creation, and we really want to understand that. We expect teams to engage students, families, and community members early and often to inform all aspects of the design and planning. By seeking to understand the needs and interests and aspirations of the people you aim to serve, teams not only design a better school, but also create the necessary relationships to sustain that over time. Furthermore, we really believe and are looking to invest in teams with the capacity to turn vision into reality. We look for teams that plan to achieve a successful school launch and that evidence that the team is on track to realize those goals. We once again understand that teams might be early in their thinking on how they're actualizing this plan, but nonetheless, we're looking to see your thinking here. Now, let's take a deeper look into the design principles we want to elevate that we deeply care about in our application. The first is an expanded definition of student success. We believe every young person should finish high school prepared and inspired to pursue a life full of opportunity, choices, connection, and meaning. To realize this aspiration, students need a strong academic foundation, as well as other mindsets, habits, and skills that are correlated with success in life. We have some promising research to share how important this work is, including some findings such as that students learn more when they feel physically and emotionally safe. Students learn more when they believe their abilities and skills can grow with effort. And students learn more when they develop ways to cope with their stress, emotions, feelings, and behavior. You can read more about the research we've done and our EDSS framework, scanning this QR code here or visiting our webpage. All schools we fund should have a comprehensive plan and focus on addressing all of these components in the student experience. The other two design principles we care deeply about is inclusion and innovation. We believe that schools need to hold high expectations for all students in their building and ensure that learning outcomes are not predictable by race, ethnicity, income, gender, or geography. We believe that educators need to work closely with the families to create the schools that embody their aspirations for their children and implement instructional approaches that meet their need. The third design principle we're looking for is innovation. Now, you might say, what type of innovation are we looking for? We take a pretty broad definition to innovation, and innovation, we believe, should take many forms that include combining new ideas with deep research-based proven practices. We also believe that a reimagined student experience needs to be student-centered, student-driven, flexible in both process and setting. Student-centered learning shifts four fundamental components of education: where learning happens, what students learn, how learning happens, and who supports students. And so we'll be looking to understand how teams are thinking about those four areas: where learning happens, what students learn, how learning happens, and who supports student learning. And we're going to give plenty of space in the application to share how these design principles are coming to life in the vision you have for your school. Now, before I dive more deeply into the planning specific application, I want to once again re-elevate kind of the three different application paths we have here on the schools team. So once again, we have our 2026 application timeline. These are what we call our launch grants for schools that are opening this coming fall. As I shared earlier, this is an interest form only at this moment, and we'll be coming back to teams late spring, early summer with a more comprehensive application to better understand kind of where the team has netted out around critical milestones and plan development before opening. The application that I'm going to walk through in a moment is our 2027 planning grant application. These are teams who are 12 to 18 months out from opening and are looking for a 1-year grant for planning support to open their new public charter, public district, or tribally controlled BIE school. And then the last application path is our charter school design grant. These grants are only for charter schools, and these are for teams that are 2 years out for opening. And this is a much more comprehensive fellowship experience that you'll be applying into that my colleague Mia is going to share much more about in her webinar. Now, I think it's important to elevate these two common questions that we get a lot. Do charter schools have to be authorized by the application deadline? Absolutely not. Charter schools do not need to be authorized at the application deadline. However, we do ask a question to help understand where you are in the process, what you understand the process to be, and if there's any significant barriers to overcoming authorization within the timeline you hope to achieve. If you have not yet received authorization, it is highly unlikely that you might be on a track to open in 2026 and 27. And so if that's the case for your school, a planning or a design grant might be a better fit for you, and we would highly encourage you to consider applying there. The second question we often get is, if I'm applying as a district applicant, what are the autonomies that my school needs to have to be eligible for funding? We are looking for district schools to have autonomies around hiring, instructional design, and school management. These do not need to be formalized at the time of grant application. However, we do ask from a letter from your superintendent or a designee that is signaling support for this school. And it's important that it's a representative who has enough understanding of the system and can say, hey, this school is likely to open and we are considering moving forward on this path. I will also note that if you are a charter school authorized by the district, we do not need a district letter. This is only for district governed schools that we're looking for this letter of support. Now, I'm going to speak a little bit more about specific eligibility for our planning grants. We are looking for schools that are enrolling students on a full-time basis in the K-12 spectrum, and we ask that the school is publicly funded and does not charge for students to attend in any form of tuition. What is ineligible for our planning grants is expansions or replications within established CMOs, a restart or consolidation of a school, turnaround schools or redesign of existing schools, school within a school, pre-K centers that only serve pre-K students, and schools launching in 2029 or later. We also are looking for schools, if you're applying to us as a charter school 2, we are looking to see that your school is outperforming the local district you sit within. And so if you're not yet outperforming your peers in your community, we'll ask you to continue to work on your current school 1 before coming to us for funding for your school 2. Once again, these are kind of the main focus areas we're looking for and the kind of governance structures we're open to funding for both planning and launch grants. As I shared, Mia is going to walk through more about the design grants. And so if you're interested to learn more about design grants, or you're saying, hey, I am on a 2028 timeline, or I am interested in starting a charter school that is partnered with an HBCU, I encourage you to kind of click over to the charter school design grant section now of the webinar, as I'm going to go really deep at this moment into our planning grant application. In our planning grant application, we have a set of sections that I'm going to walk you through. These questions are aimed at us getting a better understanding of what your school is working towards, what you are working towards, and who the team is at the table. The first section we're going to ask for is a school overview, existing school information if you're applying as a school 2, your student experience, and your team. Our application will then walk to asking about the community you seek to serve, the plans you have to achieve a successful school launch, the revenue you've raised thus far, and the impact you hope to have in your community. Diving a little bit deeper, I want to elevate the student experience section. This is probably one of the most important sections in the application. We're going to ask how you are defining and measuring an expanded definition of student success, and ask that you describe the key components of the student experience that help you realize your goals. Furthermore, we're going to ask you to describe how your model is innovative given your local context. This is an opportunity for you to really explain how you plan to reimagine the student experience and prepare students to achieve their most ambitious dreams and plans. We also expect that all teams have a North Star goal to dramatically change the academic outcomes for their students that they serve. We are not looking for trendy educational buzzwords here. Instead, we're looking for evidence that you've thought through the core components of your instructional model and how they integrate into a cohesive experience. Ideally, you should be able to speak to how these components of your model will show up in a subject matter and in teaching and learning spaces. We also ask for you to submit a visual that helps us better understand or a student schedule the experience. This can really take many forms, and we just have often found that teams find it helpful to upload a supplemental artifact that might give us 1 or 2 clicks deeper into what we could expect if we were to walk into your school building. Now, this is not an opportunity to upload your charter submission application. That is not what we want. We really want like a brief, high leverage reference document that you have, and we have seen it take many forms. The next section we're going to ask about on the application is team. And we want to highlight 3 specific questions that we find teams sometimes get stumbled on. The first is we're looking to better understand what brings you to do this work. What's motivating you? What are you passionate about? And we want to know why you believe this work is important. This is your opportunity to really share about you and who you are. We value school founders who are self-aware of their team's current strengths and their gaps. We ask that you be transparent with us about the gaps that you might have as a leader or the gaps that your team currently has and how you plan to address them. We are also going to do our own diligence on the team members' previous school results. So we encourage you to share those up front so we have the most accurate picture of you and your team's track record to date. The next part of the application is community engagement. We want to ensure that you're not shopping a school model around to serve any community. We want to know how you've engaged the specific community you seek to open your school in. There should be buy-in and demand from the community itself, and it should align to the interest of the students. We're also aware there are a set of education research and best practices. We're not asking you to forego that expertise, but rather integrate that expertise into the needs of your community. We expect teams to engage with families and community members often to inform all aspects of the design and planning of their school. We believe this is not only will lead to a better school design, but it will also solidify the relationship needed to sustain the school over time. The next portion of our application is going to ask you about your plan. We ask you to upload a plan that details key milestones, and we also really want to understand what you're prioritizing at various points throughout the design year. For example, tell us what steps you're taking to develop your instructional model. When do you plan to hire key folks for your team? We often see plans that maybe just focus on the operational milestones of the school. We're looking for your awareness around those, but we're also looking for a much more comprehensive understanding of what it takes to open a new trajectory changing school for students and their families. We're also going to ask questions about potential roadblocks or challenges to opening this new school. We know that opening a new school can be a very difficult undertaking, and so we seek to understand the awareness you have about key blockers that exist to open a school and the key blockers that might exist in your specific context and community. We're also looking to see if you have a game plan on how you're going to mitigate those blockers and an awareness that they're there. The next section you'll see on our application is revenue. We know many teams at this point have no funding. This can both be public sources of revenue and or private philanthropy that could be at the table. It's completely okay to put the answer of 0. We have not yet received any private or public funding for this school. This just helps us better understand the resources available to you at this current moment in time. And the final question we're going to ask about is impact. We really want to hear about your long-term vision to expand your impact beyond a single site. We know that this work is more than just a single school, and we want to know how you plan to impact communities beyond your school building. This might be in the early stages of development, and that is okay. And we believe that this can happen in many ways, from school replication to codifying and sharing innovative school practices, to developing new talent solutions, or even influencing the work of others or sharing. So please feel free to share just some early ideas you have. And we know that many teams might not even take action on these ideas for another 5 to 6 years, but we're just looking to see your early thinking. And finally, I will call out, and only a subset of applications will see this element of the application, but it's for any school that's applying to us as a charter school 2 or a CMO with a different model. We are going to ask for a comprehensive understanding of the performance of your current school, and this is aligned to all measures of both academic, social, emotional, including growth and proficiency measures. I also want to be transparent that we often get a lot of questions from CMOs about how a school and a model would be different. We consider a different model to be a fundamentally different instructional model, and not just a different grade level you seek to serve. And so that's important nuance. If you have questions about whether or not you may be eligible for funding, please register for one of our office hours or submit an inquiry form, and someone on our team will absolutely get back to you and kind of give you some more insight that could be unique to your situation. Thank you so much. Once again, if you are interested in learning more about our charter design grants, please click to that portion of the webinar. Bye-bye.
Hello, I'm Mia Howard, Senior Partner for Charter School Incubation at NewSchools. And in this section of the webinar, we're going to talk about eligibility and what we look for in the Charter School Design Grant. Specifically, we're looking for schools and school founders who are looking to open in the fall of 2028. And we are interested in hearing from leaders who are committed to 3 design principles: an expanded definition of student success, inclusion, and innovation. I'll talk more about each of those design principles in a later portion of the webinar. But let's first start talking about whether or not you're on track for a charter school opening in 2028. If you are, you're likely at the earliest stages of charter school design. You might be starting to engage community in elevating the need for a new school in your area, but you may not have assembled a founding board or developed the founding charter school petition that you'll submit in your authorization process. If this sounds like you, we want to hear from you. We know your ideas are nascent, and we're excited to support you in the journey of aligning research, best practice, community input, and your leadership to the creation of a trajectory-changing school. If you are proposing a School 1, you may or may not have interest in charter school partnership with HBCUs, and that's okay. But if you do have an interest in HBCU partnership, please highlight that in your application, and there is space for you dedicated to do so. You might also operate an existing school within your network. And if that's true, we want to just make sure you understand we typically are an early stage funder. And so typically we work with schools at the earliest stages, launching their first or second school. But if you are a later stage organization and you're interested in partnering with an HBCU as a charter partner, we do want to hear from you. So what would make you ineligible for the charter design track? Well, this path is for charter schools only. So if you are a district school looking to open in 2028, hold your application until the next funding cycle when you would be eligible to apply for a planning grant. If you are a district school or tribally controlled school looking to open in 2026 or 2027, then you should look at our funding pathway for launch and planning stage teams. For charter schools, you do not need to have a charter approval to apply for this funding opportunity. or to have submitted a charter application. But for selected teams that we will ultimately work with, you should be working toward a charter submission in late 2026 or early 2027 so that you are ready for 2028 launch. And to do that means a full commitment of time, typically in our fellowship, to put you on a path to charter authorization in 2027. If you are operating existing schools, we will look closely at the performance of existing schools and expect that your school is outperforming in both proficiency and growth in comparison to your local and statewide counterparts. But we also want to make clear what kinds of schools we are not funding and schools that are not eligible. We are not funding turnaround, restarts, or school consolidations. We also are not supporting a school within a school. Some of our schools will co-locate their facilities with other schools, but the school itself operates autonomously. If what I've described sounds like your work, we would love to hear from you. Please share your idea with us. While the earlier content in the webinar covers all common questions we receive, there are 2 additional FAQs I want to highlight here. The first is, do I need an HBCU partner to be eligible for a charter school design grant? The answer is no. Fellows do not need to have an established partnership to be considered for funding. Some leaders will enter with established university partners or clear prospects, while others will need support to build partnerships with aligned institutions. And it's our belief that a partnership can take many forms, from a space sharing or facilities agreement, all the way through deeper collaboration and co-design for programmatic partnership. The other thing that we anticipate you may be wondering about is whether or not you need to be a single site founder to be eligible. And again, the answer is no. But if you are proposing a school one, we want to make sure you know that you don't have to be HBCU partnered, but if you are looking for HBCU partnership, please indicate that in your application. If you are seeking to open a new school in 2028 within an existing or emerging network, and you're open to partnering with an HBCU on that school replication or expansion, we want to hear from you. We are typically focused on early stage teams, and so typically invest in schools launching their first or second school in an emerging network. But if you have a track record of success and you are a growing network interested in HBCU partnership, we want to hear from you. So to recap, if you are looking to open in 2028 a new charter school, have not yet sought authorization for that charter school, and are at the earliest stages of design for either a school one or next charter school, with or without partnership with HBCUs, we want to hear from you. Next, I'm going to talk about what we'll ask about in each section of the application. The next 2 slides give you an overview of each section of the school's application, and we'll go deeper into each of these sections to illuminate helpful tips for communicating your idea with clarity. So here you have school overview, existing school information, student experience, team background, the community you propose to serve, prior revenue, and details about HBCU charter design if it is of interest. So, in the school overview and existing school information sections, we know that you may be at a very early stage in the formation of your ideas to propose a new school. So you do not need to overstate information that is still pending or unclear. If, for example, you have not settled on a name for the school, you can indicate that it's to be determined in the future. If you have already applied to an authorizer to propose a charter school and your application was denied, please share more about that context in your application. A previous denial will not prevent us from funding your idea, but it will help us understand the local context in which you're seeking authorization. The next set of questions will invite you to share information if you belong to an existing network that is creating new schools. And this section will ask you to share school outcome measures inclusive of the academic, culture, climate, discipline, and retention data that you've collected over the years. And it's important for us to have this comprehensive understanding of your performance in prior schools. We encourage you to use the templates we've provided in the application to submit that information. And as I mentioned earlier, we want to support your vision for excellence. So if your school is not yet dramatically outperforming its peers, we would encourage you to focus on the continuous improvement of your existing schools before taking on additional growth. In the student experience section, we'll ask about the emerging ideas that are guiding your vision for students and families to experience trajectory-changing student outcomes. Our expanded definition of student success considers academic outcomes, climate and culture, experiences in school, and the development of essential habits, mindsets, and skills, as well as indicators of lifelong success. So in this section, we want to hear about the research you've done and the schools that have inspired that vision for a broad set of holistic outcomes. This is your opportunity to really explain how you plan to reimagine the student experience and prepare students to achieve their most ambitious dreams and plans. We expect that schools we fund will dramatically change outcomes for their students. And we want to know how you plan to do that, especially for students furthest from opportunity, and how you'll make sure that that's the case in each year of operation. We also will want to hear more about your school design journey. What aspects of your school design feel most clear, and where do you still need to do more development? But we are not looking for a list of trendy educational buzzwords or for you to put every single idea about a way a new school could operate in your application. We want this to be focused and clear. For example, if you are already clear about the student outcomes you want students to achieve, sometimes this is called a graduate profile, but you are still unsettled about which key learning experiences and/or model choices will carve the best path to get there, that's okay. Please share that with us. We're hoping that we can be helpful to you because of that early set of decisions that you're making that are so critical to the overall success of your school. If your ideas are more developed, then we're looking for evidence that you've thought through the core components of your instructional model and how they will integrate into a cohesive whole. Ideally, you should be able to speak to how the key components of your model will show up in a subject matter context and teaching and learning. But you should also be flexible and open to adjusting your model as new research and evidence informs your practice. Our Charter School Design Fellowship provides a lot of exposure to evidence-based models across a range of geographies, governance types, and model choices, so that you can continue to pressure test your model design with clear examples of how it's operationalized with excellence. In the team section, we're looking to learn more about what drives and inspires you, and we're looking to better understand more about your personal why of doing this work. What motivates you? Why are you passionate about this school? And what brought you to the founding table? We value school founders who are self-aware of your team's current strengths and their gaps. If you have not yet formed a team and it's you working by yourself at this stage to bring this school to life, then we invite you to do that same introspection about your own strengths and gaps. We do ask that you're transparent with us about what you see so we can align the right supports once you're in our portfolio. But we also will do our own diligence on team members' previous school results. So we encourage you to share those up front so that we have the most accurate picture of your team track record to date. We also ask about community. We want to know how you have engaged and or how you will continue to engage a particular neighborhood or community that you're intending to serve. There should be input and demand from that community itself, and it should directly serve the needs and interests of students in that community. We are also aware that there's a set of education research and best practices that are informing your school design. We are not asking you to set that aside. We're asking you to share how you plan to integrate that expertise with the needs of your school community. We expect teams to engage with families and community members early and often to inform all aspects of school design and planning. We believe this because it not only will lead to a better school design, but also because it solidifies the relationships needed to sustain a school over time. If you have done any work to develop a founding board, this is also the space to share more about those activities. You will need a coalition of support around you, but it's also important that your coalition is mission and vision aligned and skilled in a number of specific ways that are tied to strong starts of new schools. We also ask about revenue. Because you're at the earliest stages, you may not have raised any money towards this endeavor, and that is okay. Responses of 0 are perfectly acceptable and will not negatively impact your application. Conversely, if you have attracted capital and resources in support of your idea, that will also not negatively impact your application. But we do want to understand where you are in the fundraising landscape. You should complete this section most fully if you are interested in exploring partnership with HBCUs as part of your charter design and launch of a new school. If you are not interested, you can indicate that at the beginning of this section and move on to the next section of the application. But if you are interested in HBCU partnership, we welcome your creativity as you think about the types of partnerships you're interested in. Building bridges between PK-12 and post-secondary education is an area of increased interest and need for us, and we want you to be imaginative, but also know that bold ideas may also bring complexity. So we want to partner with you to make sure that those partnerships are ultimately successful and deliver on their promises to the community. And so this is your opportunity to share more about that initial vision and what you see as the potential for partnership between an HBCU and your proposed charter school. That wraps this section of the webinar. Join our office hours if you still have questions about the process, and we're wishing you good luck.
So to wrap us up, I want to recap some next steps so that you can submit your application. The first step for submitting an application is to create an account in our funding portal as soon as possible so that you can access the eligibility form, those questions that we went over earlier, and submit your application. Step 2 is to complete the eligibility form to determine if your idea aligns with our strategy and which application is the best fit for your idea. And step 3 will be to decide whether to apply based on your eligibility results and submit your application in the funding portal by January 8th. Applications are reviewed on a rolling basis, and applicants who submit by December 1st will receive an earlier update on the status of their application. So if you get in your application by December 1st, you should receive an update on the status of your application by the end of January. And if you have any questions throughout the process, please make sure to leverage the applicant supports. You can connect with us live at an upcoming office hours. You can review the application guide for some tips on how to navigate the application. And you can also reach out to us by submitting an inquiry form, and a member of our team will be there to respond and support you through your application. We are so excited that you're here, that you have a vision for reimagining K-12 education, and that you want to share your idea with us. We look forward to reading your application.